Yeah. Coffee, Ronnie, we're coming to you now. Right behind you, Michelle.
So on TV, they're saying Trump shot him, and he got hit. But I don't believe that. I'm trying to figure out how this guy got here.
Go.
You're gonna have to take that bag off.
I'm not fit.
Well, we're in 50.
You will.
You guys gonna fit?
I don't know.
We'll make it happen.
Hold on, Rich.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah, I can get through there.
Yeah, we need 4 cutters. Yeah, I'll fix it.
Watch your face.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Look, Joey, you got this.
Clear.
I don't know where the first operators are. I think they're on the roof.
Is that where the dude is too?
Yeah, he's up there too. So the ladders are en route.
Ladders are
So the operator suffered lacerations with hand from climbing up on them. So like we might need minor stitching. Can't confirm life status on the mail, but let's get our operators take care of first. But ladder is coming. So how we got up next corridor over.
Okay.
We're in this tight little. You'll see all the handprints on the
Pine trees above the ladder.
The suspect is directly above us.
So the ladder's gonna be coming over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to bring the backside.
So that corridor down there.
Yeah, it's right between the pine trees.
Here, what about that ladder there?
There's a ladder right here.
Can we use that ladder?
Can we use this ladder?
Yes. Go down to that corridor. This where they climbed, or this where that guy climbed?
Go ahead, Michelle. I want to make sure you get up there before me. Thanks, brother.
Yep.
There's a small roof in the middle. If you're standing on the stage to the right, if you're out in the crowd looking at the stage to the right. Yeah. He was on a roof outside of the fence
You
line.
need anything, brother?
No, I need to take a break.
All right.
We need to set up a solid perimeter around this building. Okay. Because we're gonna have to get access cleared out. Watch out for shell casings.
2, 3, 4, 5 right there.
Limit who comes up here.
No more guys up here. Coke, give me a solid perimeter. get guys prepped to clear the building. All right.
4 command.
Inspector Tommy, we're set for the AOG building.
4 command. Alpha 18 to 4 command. 4 Delta.
West side over here.
Yeah, that is correct. That's part of the initial. If you can get a quick location on it, we'll be able to come over.
Tom Kane. Myself and Michelle, as they out with the suspect on the roof. Several other members at Border Perimeter. Male is deceased. I'd imagine Secret Service. I have no idea. Oh, Jesus. I thought he wasn't coming. Oh. This is who Greg called out.
Well, Robbie, right now, we're coming up off Thruway. Copy that. Also, be positioned, be ready to deploy you all back out of your location.
Yeah, we can't leave now. Oh, you'll be good. You could go down a little bit farther. There's one of the somebody had the hand. Do you know who had the hand injury, sir? You know who had the hand injuries? They said one of the SWAT guys had a hand injury. Okay. Okay.
That's other is ready to go.
You say you do?
West side of the GR, high school with the bag, that we broke it. You're maintaining a perimeter around it, 1305.
Ask them to have some bombs.
I probably wouldn't on that now. Let them come up and mess with that thing.
Alpha 2.
Good.
It is a remote controlled device. It is gray in color, about 5-6 inches tall, about 1.5 to 2 inches wide, powered by a 9-volt battery.
Can you flip that over? Or should I just leave it? There wasn't pictures of it for the spawn squad. Copy that. I don't. He has a rangefinder and cell phone as well.
Yeah, gloves.
I do not. I have a pair of regular gloves if you want them.
I don't touch evidence. Do me a favor. Med kit. There's gonna be gloves in here. Just open a little bit or dump.
Gotcha.
They're black. You see them in the beginning. This one.
Front.
This stuff most shit actually we thought when you're shooting victims, so it was just dumped out and
What's that?
thrown in there.
There you go.
I just done.
Just sit back up.
Glad I decided to grab this back. I'm glad I decided to grab that back.
A rangefinder. I think it's in the cargo pocket.
Rangefinder?
Please put it out over the air. The actor was last. On the west side of EGR, they have established a perimeter. He was seen with an additional backpack after that. When they were trying to put it out,
There's nothing on him. There's no front up here.
Michelle, if you want to tuck down on that lower roof, you're good. If you feel more comfortable there. Whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, we got you covered, but if you feel comfortable on the lower roof, we're going to be stuck here for a little while.
I'm not concerned with the remote, especially since Jason hold his head.
Hey, whose backpack is that? Hey,
He did. He'll show you the picture of the bike and the backpack he had.
You be able to text it to me? You arrange?
Yeah. Let me get
Show it to me first in case it doesn't come through.
So this was his picture. There it is.
UD.
What was that? Yep. Yeah, I got a picture of it. How far? Where's that at?
Last time was on the west side of the building.
Over there?
Hold on. What's your phone number? Hold on one second.
he does or does not have one with him.
All right, I'll look for it. Call me. My phone's silent. Text, it rings. If that phone starts ringing or something, call me in case you've got someone working with them.
Gotcha.
I'd like to fucking secure it, but there's no way. He's got 10% battery left. I'll let them know the Secret Service once they get it. Grab the Faraday bag. I can't be concerned with it now.
Gotcha. Tommy? Bomb squad is heading down to where the bike and backpack is. From our location. Not sure what kind of perimeter they have set around it, but they do believe that the bike may be toxic or something.
It looks very similar to like a garage door opener. It's got numbers 1 through 12 on it.
Got
It
a
had a
removable
9-volt
antenna too.
In a roof, an extendable antenna. Yep, let me know.
What's that? Oh, good. Just want to make sure you're good.
Yeah, I just realized they're doing splatters.
Huh.
I was like, I'm gonna die.
Trying to see if I see gas meters anywhere, because if he has this device. Saw me.
You have eyes on the water tower. Correct. The CR units will have everyone watch on the water tower until we can get
A couple guys up here asking if you're aware of any gas meters you may have seen on your way through. Copy. If you happen to see one in any type of device on it, let me know. I'll relay ASAP.
Anybody, I mean, obviously,
watching the water tower.
Just let everything calm down for a second. I'm pretty sure, I would imagine Secret Service or FBI probably.
I just been sitting, I've been texting stuff to command with like literally notations, like when you found that, and so I could.
You got a notepad on you, bro? You got a notepad and pen? Yeah, my daddy, that's rifle. Got hair all over the place. Shells over here.
On both sides. Looks like what, at least 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least 8.
You got a clean round for his neck.
You know who hit him?
That gray remote right there. Yeah, he already came up, took a good look at it for you.
They popped the battery out, and then they're going to check. There's a bike with a book bag that he was with. They're going to check that now. It's supposed to be on the west side of the building.
He had that black backpack he's laying on the ground. Up there.
So we don't know. So this is the guy that
Yes, that they sent the yes. Beaver County Sniper Scene and sent the pictures out. This is him.
Okay,
Rifle's right there, obviously.
got it. So the bike in the back. Is he on that bike? With
We don't
that
know.
bike? We don't know. So
I
we're
don't
just treating that as suspicious device.
Oh, one second. I believe the sniper that seen these and sent the pictures is right inside this building. Michelle, is Greg in there? All right. So if you go to that window that's open and yell for Greg, that's the sniper that sent the original pictures and seen him come from the bike and set the book back down and then lost sight of him.
Okay.
He's the one that sent the pictures out. I don't know if you got the same ones I did.
I think I did. Yeah. He's like got his glasses on and he's.
So we had the picture of that.
I got that.
Okay,
picture
and then
there.
this is his bike with the stuff, and our sniper seen him walking away from that, I believe.
Okay.
But he would be right inside that window. He's the one that physically seen this, sent the pictures, and called it out.
Okay. So, and we have somebody detained,
Thank you.
correct?
That I don't know.
detained on this side.
Our guy that was just up here told me that there's a guy detained who's the owner of the bike, and I said, no, I think that's the owner of the bike.
Yeah, basically, when I got
We've been up here, so we wouldn't know that
We
information.
were we just hauled ass. We got over
Right.
here.
Got it.
We hopped up
No,
over it.
yeah. That's no problem. Is that all your stuff?
That was one of our
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So someone came up looking to treat him, and that was messed
Yes.
Copy. Gas is off to the building, just so you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, they do. I talked to the guy. They were those people detained were filming.
The American Water was notified. They authorized.
Maybe they were involved. Maybe they
They
weren't.
will start somebody.
Other than that, I haven't heard anybody.
Well, I think it's
Copy. Hold up, okay.
the guys that saw them filming were like, oh, they were filming us, and then filming the guy up on the roof, and then filming us, and then when shots started firing, they like tried to run away. It was like, isn't that what everybody would do that has a phone? I'm not saying they weren't involved, but you know what I mean? Like that.
It's up in the air right now, right?
Right. So I got no problem detaining them. But again, I'm just trying to detain those guys, find out what they know, who they are, whatever. I'm trying to get clear information to relay back to DC.
Breach souls in the water tower.
We have one shooter deceased.
I
I think
know
we
idea.
have 3 victims in the crowd. Did you guys hear that too?
I'm not sure.
So I heard 1 deceased, 2 life flighted.
I know 2 helicopters did take off.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know how many
Hello.
victims.
3 are deceased.
One command. We have access to a drone. What is this water tower?
Any LE?
No, it's incorrect.
I will try to confirm.
One, confirmed that was one
In the van?
and yeah,
Did he survive? Copy.
This might be the issue that determines the election, and many people believe it is. Are you going to do a national abortion ban? Would you support that? Yes or no?
So I don't need a national ban because it's up to the states. Right now, what I did is something that people have wanted to do from day one. 51 years it's been going on. And if you remember, over the years, you're too young, but over the years, all they wanted to do is they wanted to take it out of the federal government and move it into the states. And I got that done with the selection of 3 great justices. I got it done. And it was a big thing. But I will say over the last 10 years, or maybe a little bit more than that, they started talking about the number of weeks and this and that. A lot of different subjects came in. It was no longer just simply bringing it back. Every legal scholar, from Democrat to Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted it given to the states, because from a legal standpoint, from a lot of other standpoints, including even a moral standpoint, they wanted it brought back to the states. And what I did is I got it back to the states. And now the states are in charge and the people are voting. And some votes are coming out the way certain people wanted, and some votes aren't coming out the way certain people wanted. I mean, if you look at Ohio, I would say it was a more liberal vote than people would have thought. And you could say that for Kansas. And then you look at Texas, it was a different story. But the people of the states have got that issue now, and they're voting. And the one thing that we have to remember, that there's been a lot of radicalism talked about, and the radicalism is really on the left because they're willing to do abortions in the 8th and 9th month. And even beyond that, I mean, we have some people, the governor, take a look at the governor of Virginia, the former governor of Virginia, where he talked about we will kill the baby after the baby is born. That's a very radical stance. And hopefully that's all going to be taken off the table now. But just to put it simply, it's now up to the states. And like Ronald Reagan, I'm a believer in the exceptions, the 3 exceptions, as you know, and rape, incest, life of the mother, the danger for the life of the mother. And we have a situation now where it's in the states' hands, and the states are going to be voting. The last thing people want, the people are going to be voting. The last thing people want is for that to go back into the federal government. It was always fought, and very importantly, and people wanted it, they wanted it back in the states where it belongs legally and for a lot of other reasons.
So you wouldn't support a national ban?
No, I wouldn't support a national ban. No, I would not. Even arrive at the Oval Office shortly after we win the presidency. We win. All of us together are going to win. I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I know them both. I will get it settled. We will demand that Europe pay much more for the cost of defense. You know, we're paying the lion's share to Ukraine. And I keep saying, why isn't Europe paying more? You know, the economy of Europe, if you add up all the various countries, is about the same size as the United States. They've got plenty of money. Why are we paying and they're paying very little by comparison? They have to equalize, and they have to equalize fast. It's not right. And remember, it's more important to them. We have a thing called an ocean between us. Much more important to them. They have to come up with the money. That means somebody has to ask them. You know, I did it with NATO. I said, you're not paying your fair share. They said, you're the only one that's ever said that. I was the only president. Bush would make a speech. Obama would make a speech. They'd all go and make speeches, and they'd leave, and that'd be it. I didn't make a speech. I said, what are you doing? I looked at the books. I said, we're paying 90%, maybe even 100% of NATO. So we're defending you militarily, and you're taking advantage of us on trade. How does that work? And I said, you have to pay. They ended up putting up more than $430 billion, $430 billion, because I asked. Now I asked the right way. I remember during a meeting, one of the presidents of one of the European countries stood up, and it was a closed-door meeting. He said, may I ask you a question, Mr. President? Yes. If we don't pay, we're not paid up, and we're attacked by Russia, will you defend us? I said, you mean you're delinquent? You haven't paid? That's right. No, I will not defend you. The next day, the money came pouring in. You got the money. I took a lot of heat from the fake news. They said, you shouldn't treat allies like that. I said, no, allies shouldn't treat us like that. They should pay their bills. And it made NATO much stronger because of it. It made NATO rich and strong. And the head of NATO, the Secretary General, he said, Stoltenberg, he said that Trump is amazing. He did something that nobody else has been able to do. It's incredible. Now, I don't know if he'd say that today, but he certainly said it then. And I think he said it recently, even again. And another thing that was very good is a country, Hungary, very strong leader, Viktor Orban. They asked him, why is the world blowing up? What's wrong? This is a few weeks ago. Why is it so bad? What do you recommend? Now, he's a strong man. He's a strong guy. He's a tough leader. He runs a country very well. He allowed no illegal immigrants in his country. He went against other European countries, which have frankly half destroyed themselves. And I said, they asked him the question, what would you recommend? He said, I would recommend one thing. Get Donald Trump elected president again, and you're going to have no problems anywhere in the world. Get him elected president. That's true. Thank you. Thank you. No, it's true. I don't want to be the one to say it, but if I don't say it, nobody else will. That I can tell you. And he used a word I wouldn't use, but he used it. He said, China was afraid of him. I don't like to use the word afraid. Let's say they respected me. But he said, China was afraid of him. Russia was afraid of him. Look what I did to Russia. Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2. Nobody in this audience. I'm the only one that knew what it was. It's the biggest pipeline in the world going to serve Europe. And I said, so we're defending them against Russia, and yet they're paying Russia billions of dollars a month for oil. How does that make sense? I ended it. I closed Nord Stream 2. Then they say that I was friendly to Russia. I wasn't friendly to Russia. I got along with Putin. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. But I closed Nord Stream 2. And Putin said to me, if you're friendly to me, I'd hate like hell to see if you weren't friendly. This is not good. He was not happy. But I closed up the pipeline before it got finished, before it got built. When Biden came in, one of the first things he did is approve Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline in the world. And then they say, oh, Trump was very soft. They're full of misinformation and disinformation. That's all they're good at. That and cheating on elections. That's all they're good at. Biden's weakness has led the planet to the edge of nuclear war. I will bring the world glorious new peace, and I will make the following statement. I am the only one that can say this, I believe. I know them all, and they respect me. They don't respect our country anymore. It's a country that's in decline, but they respect me, and we're going to have it back very soon. We're going to have a great country very soon. But I'll say this. I will prevent World War III. I'm the only one that's going to do it. Biden. You know, if I were president, if the election were an election that it should have been, you would have never had Russia attacking Ukraine. Even Democrats admit this. Would have never happened. Never did happen for 4 years. Not even a discussion. Russia wouldn't be attacking Ukraine. And on October 7th, Israel would have never been attacked by Iran. Iran was broke. When I was president, Iran was broke. I told China, if you buy 1 barrel of oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business in the United States. I said that to many countries, and they did very little oil. Check it out. They did almost no business in selling oil, which is their lifeblood. And we would have had a deal within 1 week after the presidential election. We would have had a deal. And you know what the deal would have been? It would have been fine for them. But it would have had one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And now they're 60 days from having a nuclear weapon because these people have done nothing. I gave it to them on a silver platter. They were broke. They had no money. And I heard this from a Democrat congressman on Deface the Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, Deface the Nation. And he said, I will admit that under Trump, Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for terror. And now they have $230 billion. They made it in 3.5 years. But we'll get something done. But it's a very precarious position. But I will prevent World War III, and we will have peace through strength. That's what we're going to have. In my next term, we will build a great Iron Dome, very much like Israel has, but even better. I'm saying, why don't we have that? We should have that too. We have a lot of hostile people out there. We have a lot of bad actors out there. We're going to build the greatest dome of them all. We're going to have it all made right here in America. Some of it's going to be made right here in Michigan. State-of-the-art missile defense shield that will be entirely built in America and will create jobs, jobs, jobs. And we're going to have the greatest dome of them all. We're going to have greater. You saw how effective that was with Israel last week with 300 rockets shot. Every one of them knocked out. Every one of them knocked down. Probably if they didn't have it, they wouldn't even have Israel right now. If you think about it, right? All those would have hit various locations. Virtually none of them got through. Amazing. We're going to have a more sophisticated version. We have the technology. We have the genius. We're going to have we're going to build a great Iron Dome. We're going to have a shield around our country, and it's made here, and it's going to be a great day. We're also going to rebuild our cities, and we're going to make them beacons of hope and safety and beauty, better than they have ever been before. Right now, they're crime-ridden. They're falling apart. They're run by Democrats. I'll work with the Democrats. We're going to rebuild our cities. You see what's happening with your cities. You see Detroit. For 35 years, I've heard about this great comeback in Detroit, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting. It's taken a long time, but we're going to make our cities great again. We're going to take over the horribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., clean it up, renovate it, rebuild our capital city so that it will become the most beautiful capital in the world again. And we're going to get rid of the horrible, violent crime that's taking place there. You go there from Michigan and you end up getting stabbed or shot, and people aren't even going. It's horrible. Graffiti all over the place. We're going to take it back. We're going to make it beautiful. We're going to renovate it and build it, and we're going to make it much more beautiful than it ever was. It'll be the most beautiful capital city anywhere in the world, and we have an obligation to do it. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children. I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. I will keep men out of women's sports day one. Day one. Signed up. Day one. How ridiculous is that? How crazy? That's like open border. I mean, there are things that are so crazy. Like, who the hell wants an open border where countries from all over the world are infiltrating and violating our country? It's the same with men playing in women's sports. I mean, take a look at what's happening. Take a look. It's so disrespectful to women, but take a look at what's happening to records that have stood for 18 years of being shattered by numbers that nobody's ever even thought of before. I will fully uphold the always under siege Second Amendment, guns. I will always uphold. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech, and we need free speech in this country. And I will do something that nobody else has a passion for like I do. I will secure our elections and make them real, beautiful, safe elections. And our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and voter ID. Very simple. Voter ID. But until then, Republicans must win. We have to win. We have to win. That's why I say, use your heart. Go back to the abortion question. We have to win. But we have to go out. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very bad period for this country. We have to win those elections. We want, in the case of our election, our presidential election, we want a landslide that's too big to rig. Too big to rig. We got to make it so big. Because one thing we know, at a certain level, they can't cheat. They can cheat, but it won't matter. So we think we're going to have them stop, but that's what they do best. We want to make our win too big to rig. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as crooked Joe Biden and the Biden administration has done. And I used to say, and you know that because a year ago, if you heard me at a rally, and the rallies are bigger and better and stronger than ever before, the whole thing is ready for a big victory on November 5th. But if you heard me, I used to say, if you took the 5 worst presidents, now I said that's not enough. Now I say 10 worst. I have a feeling by the next time we meet, it'll be the 15, maybe the 20 worst. He's so bad. He's the worst president ever. It's pathetic. And you know what? As a country, we're laughed at all over the world. All over the world, we're laughed at. He flies to Saudi Arabia to meet the king. He's in the plane for 24 hours. He stumbles out of the plane. He meets the king finally. And instead of shaking his hand, he gives him a fist pump. In other words, don't touch me. I don't want to touch your hand. This is what we got negotiating for us. He can't negotiate. He can't do anything right. And everything he touches turns out bad. And we just don't want it. We want to make our country great again. We're tired of watching this clown show. So if you want to save America, get every common sense person you know, you go register and vote Republican. You got to vote for us. You got to vote for Mike and everybody else on the ticket. But we're going to turn it around fast, Mike, right? We're going to turn it around fast, and he's going to be a great help. I'm so happy that he's running, frankly. I'm so happy. So in conclusion, together, we are taking on some of the most menacing forces and vicious opponents our people have ever seen. We've never seen anything like it. But no matter how hateful and corrupt the communists and criminals we're fighting against may be, you must never forget this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. It belongs to you. This is your home. This is your heritage. And our American liberty is your God-given right. This is your God-given right. From Marquette to Midland, from Frankfort to Flint, and from Detroit to Saginaw, we stand on the shoulders of red-blooded Michigan patriots who laid out the railroads, worked the factories, tilled the fields, forged the steels, fought the battles, and won the victories that made America into the greatest and most powerful nation anywhere in the world. We love our nation. But now We are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and it's lost its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way, but we are not going to allow this horror, it's an absolute horror, to continue any longer. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was hardworking patriots like you, the people of Michigan, who built this country, and it's hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. Our country must be saved. Our country is in big, very dangerous trouble. Our country has never been in a position like this. We're laughed at all over the world. We're not respected by anybody. Our economy is going to hell. Inflation is eating everybody alive. Everything is wrong with our country. There's nothing that's going right. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout out the fake news media. We will drain the swamp, and we will liberate our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all. We will liberate our country. Like those patriots before us, we will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield, we will never give in, we will never give up. We will never, ever, ever back down. We will never back down. With your support, we will go on to victory, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. We will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House, and we will take back our country on November 5th, 2024. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer, and it wasn't forgotten. Man and woman 4 years ago was not forgotten. They were somebody. They were proud. They loved our country. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Michigan. Thank you. God bless you all. God bless you.
Here's a question for you. Just how far are the radical left and inside the Beltway bandits willing to go to stop him? We all know they hate him for winning the fight to protect life, for exposing their deep state, for draining their precious swamp. And they already know he'll crush Biden. So like a pack of rabid wolves, they attack. So let's impeach him. Let's get tainted radical left prosecutors to charge him. Let's conspire with Hillary and the FBI with fake stories about him. All to distract from Biden's incompetence, weakness, and money-grabbing corruption. But here's the thing, he'll never blink. That's called having the courage of your convictions. And it's why he's our president.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Hi, perhaps you recognize me. It's your favorite president.
If tomorrow
I am asking you to choose greatness.
And I had to start
Comes from China. That's why. I just want to say that this is my honor.
You are so lucky I'm
Thank my
president.
lucky stars to be living here today.
Mr. Trump,
Yes.
Are you Batman?
The greatest jobs president that God ever created. Gonna have jobs. I love this guy right now. Somebody said to me the other day, "You're the most famous person in the world by far." I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." I said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No." He said, "Who's more famous?" I said, "Jesus Christ."
Keeper of promise. One nation, under God.
We're all looking at the exact same thing. There are two camps that are seeing two different things. And I do believe that the people that are so entrenched in their negativity, they're led largely by emotion and they can't let go. The key is to separate the psychological effects of Trump from the practical results of his actions. That's how you're going to end up judging this guy. This is a phenomenon.
The judge presiding over this particular case is Judge Arthur Engoron, who, just for your reference, recently referred to President Trump as a quote-unquote bad guy. And, well, surprisingly, he also ruled against him. Judge Engoron, 2 weeks ago, ruled that the Trump Organization did illegally inflate the value of their assets to secure more favorable bank loans. President Trump's legal team, they did indeed file an emergency appeal to that decision, urging the New York Appeals Court to reconsider the judge's ruling. And on Friday, the appeals court accepted this argument, and they issued a stay on the judge's order. And just for your reference, a stay in this particular context is equivalent to a temporary injunction against the judge, meaning that the appeals court has essentially put a hold on the dissolution of Trump's New York-based businesses. And if you thought that was interesting, well, hit that subscribe button and get more videos just like this.
It's an invasion of America. Streets flooded with poison, killing millions. Enemies and tyrants on opposite sides of the globe laugh at us. Wars threaten us. The threat of nuclear annihilation, once forgotten, is now real again. America's weakness has become their strength. The global elitists who send your kids to war, who tell you a woman is a man and a man is a woman, who teach your children their country, their faith, their beliefs are a lie. They have corrupted every facet of American government, weaponized it against you. While they watch our cities burn and violent crime skyrocket, you and your families pay the price. Out of control inflation, an economy wrecked, a nation in decline. This is Joe Biden's America, failing, weak. But one man, one movement can change all that for us. Put America, the middle class, first, and put the globalists, the elitists, and the corrupt in their place. Bring back pride and the American dream to let the world know, don't mess with us. One man focused on the true owners of this great land. One movement focused on the true priorities. Make America great for us again.
Well, it was anything but a good week for President Biden.
The polls are pretty consistent. Joe Biden is a failure.
The pull-out of Afghanistan, President Biden's exit as an unmitigated disaster.
That disastrous evacuation resulted in Americans left behind.
Joe Biden, you're fired. Get out of here.
Bidenomics has become a negative word, especially among Democrats, because it's not working.
70% of Americans say the economy is worse now.
That's Bidenomics.
You're fired.
The crisis at the border unrelenting.
Record numbers of migrants crossing over this week.
151 people on the FBI's terror watch list.
Would you employ Joe Biden for anything? No.
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired.
He's fired.
Hey, everybody. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here. I'm reaching out to you about an important matter called ballot access. Because I'm running as an independent candidate, we have to tackle a massive challenge of getting on the ballot in all 50 states. That means collecting millions of signatures, which is going to end up costing us about $15 million. That's a cost that the two-party candidates don't have to bear, because they're automatically on the ballot. I'm actually thrilled to meet this challenge because it allows us to showcase our people power in action. Last quarter, thanks to your extraordinary support, we outraised both Presidents Trump and Biden in individual campaign contributions. And if you've been reading the newspapers, you know that my favorability ratings are much higher than either of these candidates. I already have enough national support to qualify to be on the stage for the presidential debates, which means voters will finally have another choice outside of the corporate-controlled uniparty. Americans want more options, and with your help, we can make that happen. Your donations right now are going to go directly to our ballot access mission, whether it's $5 or $20 or $100. Every dollar you give gets us one step closer to taking back the White House. When I do that, everything is going to change. If you like this video and you want to help me become president of the United States, go to Kennedy24.com and donate now. It used to be the Democratic Party opposed censorship. It was the Democratic Party that wanted to rein in the military and the CIA. It was the Democratic Party that fought corporate influence. Remember when Wall Street and big corporations all supported the Republicans? Well, who is the liberal now and who's the conservative? Who is the left? Who is the right? These labels make less and less sense. Yet out of habit, we still group ourselves around the empty husks of those old alignments and threadbare ideologies. But now that habit is breaking down. That's why half the electorate no longer identifies with any political party. And 63% of Americans want an independent to run for president. Of course, the outer structures of the party still dominate the political landscape, but they're hollowed out from within like a building full with termites. What kind of new political structures might emerge from those ruins? What is politics going to look like when it's no longer us versus them? American democracy should be more than just picking between two candidates anointed by shadowy institutions. Big oil funds the Republicans. Big tech funds the Democrats. Big pharma and the military contractors make sure to give to both. Instead of two parties, we have this kind of uniparty, a two-headed monster that's constantly bickering with itself as it leads us all over a cliff. And at the bottom of that cliff is the destruction of our country. Because I'm independent of the military contractors, I'll be able to pursue a foreign policy that puts peace and diplomacy first. And because I'm independent of wealthy donors, I'll be able to close the loopholes and giveaways that bloat our budget. And because I'm independent of Wall Street, I'll be able to rescue debtors instead of the banks or in the next financial crisis. And because I'm independent of big polluters, I'll be able to clean up our soil, our water, our air, and protect our Purple Mountain's majesty. When John Adams put his pen down after adding his signature to the Declaration, he turned to those present and he said to them, sink or swim, live or die, survive or perish. From this day on, I am with my country. I'm going to make that same pledge to you today so that I can stand before you as every leader should stand before you, free of partisan allegiance, free from the backroom deals, servant only to my conscience, to my Creator, and to you. We are determined as the American people to go back and reach that promised land again. And I do know what it looks like because I've had glimpses of it during my lifetime. I know it's an America with a prosperous middle class where if you work hard, if you play by the rules, you can finance a home, you can raise a family, you can take a summer vacation, you can put something aside for your retirement, where we don't have to choose between economic prosperity and environmental protection, where our children will have the same opportunities for dignity and enrichment and good health as the communities that our parents gave us. I know it's a place where every American enjoys the right to vote and everybody has absolute faith that our electoral system has integrity and it's the best in the world, which is a bastion for the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. And I know that that promised land is a place where America is a moral authority around the world, that people look to us for leadership, that it's a place that promotes peace instead of war. And I know that America is possible when we declare independence from the deadlocked party establishment. That is the America that's possible when we declare independence from a war machine that devours $1 trillion a year. That's the America that is only possible when we stop fighting each other and go over the fortress wall. And that's the America that I'm going to serve when I become President of the United States. If you like this video and you want to learn more about me and the movement that we're building, please go to Kennedy24.com. I'm here to declare myself an independent candidate for President of the United States. But that's not all. I'm here to join you in making a new Declaration of Independence for our entire nation.
I declare my independence.
Today's the day I declare my independence.
I declare my independence. Let's go, Kennedy.
I declare my independence.
I declare my independence. I declare my independence.
I declare my independence. I declare my independence.
I declare my independence.
I declare my independence. I declare my independence. I declare my independence.
What is your relationship and what is your understanding of God? Who is God?
Most philosophers would say we're inside the mind of God. And so it would be impossible for us to understand actually what God's form is. So then the question is, how do you start believing in something that you can't see or smell or hear or touch or taste or acquire with your senses? And Jung provides the formula for that. And he says, act as if you fake it till you make it. And so that's, what I started doing. I just started pretending there was a God watching me all the time, and kind of life was a series of tests. And there was a bunch of moral decisions that I had to make every day. And if I make a whole bunch of those choices right, I maintain myself in a posture of surrender, which keeps me open to my higher power, to my God. And when I do those things right, so much about addiction is about abuse of power. All of us have some power, whether it's good looks or whether it's connections or education or family or whatever. And there's always a temptation to use those to fulfill self-will. And the challenge is, how do you use those always to serve instead God's will and the good of our community? And that to me is kind of the struggle. And when I do that, I feel God's power coming through me, and that I can do things. I'm much more effective as a human being. That gnawing anxiety that I lived with for so many years, and God, it's gone. And that I can kind of put down the oars and hoist the sail, and the wind takes me. And I can see the evidence of it every day of my life. If you like this video and you want to learn more about me and the movement that we're building, please go to Kennedy24.com.
many of the issues on which you disagree with President Biden have a lot of crossover with President Trump, who obviously is running on the other side of the aisle. So, you're in a strange position where Democrats are suggesting that you're a President Trump plant in order to take votes away from Biden. Some members of the Trump camp are claiming that you're a Biden plant in order to take away votes from President Trump. Why not support President Trump as an alternative to President Biden?
Yeah, I see. I don't see it that way. I think that President Biden and President Trump are much more like each other than most people, and Democrats and Republicans like to acknowledge it. And let me say this, because that's going to be a controversial statement. I want to qualify it. I think President Trump and President Biden are very different in their temperaments, and extremely different. They're different in their professed ideologies. They're different in their personalities and their rhetoric. But the issues that they differ on are in a very, very narrow band. They're mainly culture war issues. They're abortion, it's guns, the border, woke ideology, those kind of transgender stuff. Some of them very, very important issues. The border is the only one that I would say is even vaguely existential. But the big issues at America that are existential to our country, that really threaten all of us, that are most concerned to all of us, neither of them has even taken positions on. The debt, for example, they're both equally bad on the debt. The debt is the most important issue. It's $34 trillion. The service on that debt is now larger than our defense budget, and our defense budget is larger than the next 10 defense budgets for the next 10 countries in the world all put together. So that is, and President Trump and President Biden are largely responsible individually for that debt. President Trump ran up the biggest debt in history. He put $8 trillion on that number. And that is more than all the presidents in 283 years of history before him. And President Biden put almost that much on it. Oh, within 5 years, 50 cents out of every dollar that is collected in taxes is going to go to servicing the debt. Within 10 years, and particularly if interest rates rise, within 10 years, 100% of every dollar collected in taxes will go to servicing the debt. This is really an existential crisis for our country, and you don't hear President Biden or President Trump ever talk about it. Stephanie, you ready? Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I want to begin by commending President Biden for a career in public service, a long, long career in representing and serving our country, and for his handling of the many difficulties and challenges, personal challenges and tragedies that he suffered during his life with so much admirable conduct and the empathy that he derived from those experiences, that he was always proficient at showing to the rest of us. I want to add that a year ago, a little over a year ago, when I entered this race, I predicted that President Biden suffered from a degenerative condition that was not going to improve and that it would make it impossible for him to govern effectively. The reaction of the DNC to that obvious condition was to hide it from the American public and to use their power over the Democratic Party nomination process to make sure that nobody could compete with President Biden in a way that would expose his deficiencies. And as a result, we are where we are today, which is in a period of crisis. And we have two crises, and they both derive from the same condition. And that condition is the emergence of the domination of corporate power over American democracy that accelerated beginning in 2010 with the Citizens United case that unleashed a tsunami of corporate money into the American political process. And both parties are now captured by that corporate money. And they've lost any kind of authentic connection to the American people or to the populist goals of the Republic and of democracy. On the Republican side, President Biden promised the last time around that he was going to drain the swamp. But instead, he came in and he appointed a pharmaceutical lobbyist and CEO to run HHS, Verizon lobbyist to run the FCC, a Goldman Sachs CEO to run the Treasury Department, an oil lobbyist to run the Interior Department, a coal lobbyist to run the Environmental Protection Agency, and so on. And only today, President Trump has announced that in his new administration, should he win this election, that Jamie Dimon will be his choice as Commerce Secretary, and that Larry Fink, the director of BlackRock, will run the Treasury Department. This is the swamp. These are swamp creatures. And his pick as vice president is a salute to the CIA and to the intelligence community and to the military-industrial complex. Their gravy train is going to continue. And President Trump has a connection to the American people, a populist connection, but in many ways, it's the same fraudulent connection that we saw with the DNC over the past year, concealing the real purpose of their objectives, which was to give us a president that represents corporate interests rather than the interests of the American public. We've seen two presidents who aren't really addressing any of the issues that are critical to our country. We have, if you look at President Biden and President Trump, you can look at them and say these are very different people. Their dispositions are different. Their personalities are different. Their expressed ideologies are very, very different. Their approach to politics could not be more distinct. But if you actually look at the policies over which they differ, over the landscapes in which they're staging this election, it's a very narrow Overton window of guns, of culture war issues, of abortion, of trans rights, etc. And the big existential issues that are actually facing our country are never addressed. The biggest of these, perhaps, is the national debt. This is now $34 trillion. The service on that debt alone is now greater than our military budget. Within 5 years, 50 cents out of every dollar that we collect in taxes will go to servicing that debt, within 10 years, 100%. This is not sustainable. President Biden, President Trump offer no solutions. President Biden on his webpage has no policy issues addressing this or any other policy. He has a picture of himself and saying that we're going to finish the job. But he doesn't tell what job he's going to finish. If it's the job of running up the deficit till it's completely unsustainable, that's something that the American people should know about. President Biden can't talk about it, and President Trump can't talk about it because they're the ones chiefly responsible for running up that debt. President Trump came into office saying he was going to run the presidency as a business. He was going to balance the federal budget. And instead, he ran up an $8 trillion debt, more than all the presidents combined since George Washington. And President Biden is now on track to beat that number. So neither of them are even going to talk about this most existential issue. Another existential issue is our addiction to foreign wars. Both men have said that they're against war, and both men are feeding the war machine. The Ukraine war is a war that should have never been fought. It should have been settled. President Putin has offered twice to settle that war on terms that were enormously beneficial to the Ukrainian people and to the American people and to our security in Europe. And yet, President Putin initialed an agreement. President Zelensky initialed that same agreement in April of 2022. And President Biden sent Boris Johnson over to force Zelensky to tear up that agreement. And since then, it's probable that over 500,000 Ukrainian kids have died unnecessarily in a war that is enriching BlackRock because they own all of the military contractors that are supplying that war. And BlackRock not only has the contract to destroy Ukraine, but it also now has the contract which President Biden gave them to rebuild Ukraine. Neither of these presidents is going to deal with the chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. Diabetes alone, when I was a kid, a typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his career, or a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And nobody's talking about why this is happening. The cost of dealing with mitochondrial disorders in our children, dysfunction, which is diabetes, is now greater than our military budget. The biggest cost to our nation is the cost of treating chronic disease, $4.3 trillion annually. It's 5 times the price of our military budget. And nobody's talking about why did autism go from 1 in 10,000 in my generation and 70-year-old men today, right now, and yet my children's generation is 1 in every 34 kids, 1 in every 22 boys. Shouldn't we be looking into this? Shouldn't we be doing the science to figure out what's causing it? We know that it's an environmental exposure or an accumulation of environmental exposures. Genes don't cause epidemics. There has to be an environmental toxin. And all the corrupt merger of state and corporate power has been overseen by both political parties. It's something neither of them, the capture of our agencies by the industries that they're supposed to regulate. Our regulatory agencies have been turned into sock puppets of the industries they're supposed to protect us against. And all of these are issues that are critical to the American people. And finally, the most existential issue of all, the toxic division that is destroying our country. And President Biden's, the attempted assassination of President Trump this week is a symptom of that toxicity. We're now more polarized in this country than at any time since the American Civil War. And nobody can see an ending to this. If President Biden gets elected, it's going to become more toxic. If President Trump gets elected, it's going to become more polarized. And neither of these men, both of them recognize this is existential. But both of them, neither of them can do anything about it. Why? because they feed on it. They feed it. They fuel it. And they are the products of that division. So we need a leader who can stop feeding into the vitriol, stop feeding into the anger, stop feeding into the marginalization, the polarization, and who can find those values that bring Americans together rather than focusing on these toxic issues that are intended to keep us all apart. And it's the BlackRock, the State Street, the JP Morgan who are profiting from that division. The very people that President Trump has promised to appoint to run our government who are profiting on it, because it's like the jangling of keys. They're saying, look over here, look at abortion, look at freedom of choice, look at trans rights, look at gun rights. And while we're all staring at each other's throats on those issues, on the jangling keys, they're robbing the bank over here. They're shifting the wealth upward to this new oligarchy of billionaires. And both President Trump and President Biden engineered the lockdowns in 500 days. They created 500 new billionaires, and they shifted $4.3 trillion northward from the American middle class to this new aristocracy that we have. And it's destroying our country. We need a change. If people want more of the same, they can vote Democrat and they can vote Republican. The only way we're going to get a change in this country is if people come together behind the one candidate who is independent, who has vowed to have a unity government to bring Republicans and Democrats and others all together in a way that finds common ground in our country. A candidate who's the only candidate who's pro-choice, who's pro-environment, who's pro-civil rights, and who beats Donald Trump by 14%. There is no other candidate who can beat Donald Trump. Look at all the polls that have been done over the last year. I beat Donald Trump and nobody else can. Thank you very much.
The bottom half of your tweet talked about the nomination process in Chicago next month. Can you talk about that moving forward on your kind of thoughts on being a neutral policy on who the Democrats finally nominate?
Well, I care about our country more than I do about my election or anything else. And I think we need political parties that are actually attached to the American people, that are serving the interests of our republic. And if the Democrats do what I suspect they're going to do, which is to anoint Kamala Harris, a vice president who is monumentally unpopular within her own party, but they're doing it because it's the easiest way to hold on to the money, and she's the police. And I think if they don't open up the process, that it really is going to discredit this political party that I would remember all of my years. I can take the back of that to create the illusion of a democracy, but in fact, it's a cabal that is choosing the same way the Soviet Union did. Russia has elections. Vladimir Putin wins with 88% of the vote because he controls who can be his opponents. And he controls the media. And the same is true now of our political parties in this country.
Would you open up to the possibility of taking part if there was an open convention you called for that? Is that something you would consider taking part?
I would certainly listen to the party elders if they came to me. I would discuss something with them. I'm the only presidential candidate who can beat Donald Trump. And if I were them, I would do that. And I would certainly listen to their proposals.
Will you actively seek out that nomination? You're saying if they come to you, but
I am very content running where I am. And I believe I can win this election. I believe at this point it's a two-man race or two-person race. Let me put it that way. And, and that I'm in the best position to win.
And if the polling then shows that you're not in the best position, whoever the Democrats go with, whether it's Vice President Harris or someone else, will you, because what you cite often are your internal polls. So if your internal polls show that you will actually lose, would you step down and step aside. If
Well,
someone
you know,
else-
I would get that's an interesting proposal, and I would consider taking that proposal if the other candidates did the same.
You mentioned Kamala Harris is who you said that the Democratic Party appeared poised to put into that position. You were critical there, obviously, of President Biden's policy. What, if anything, is different? How do you compare yourself to Kamala Harris if she does become the Democratic nominee for president?
Well, I think, you know, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She is, she's a war hawk. You know, the Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that we should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public official. She's the author of one of the primary authors of the school to prison pipeline. She kept 5,000 people, despite a Supreme Court order. She released 5,000 prisoners of nonviolent drug crimes who were illegally in California jails. She kept them in there saying that we needed them for firefighting and for other public work services. And that's just a modern version of indentured servitude, a modern version of slavery. She was one of the two leading public officials in California, which now has the worst education system, 49th in education outcomes in the country. 50% of the homeless people in our country are in California, and she was behind those policies. I don't think she has a good, I don't think, in terms of the traditional democratic principles, I don't think she has a credible record.
In all the turmoil of the past week, never has gone through your mind you regret leaving the Democratic Party, because with this turmoil, that might have left you as a front runner as we speak today.
Well, I wouldn't be the front runner, because if by the time I left the Democratic Party, it was really clear that, and this is the only reason I left, that the rules have been rigged to prevent me from winning. So I would be in the same position as Dean Phillips is today, or Marianne Williamson. I wouldn't, which is, you know, sidelined. And the only way that I avoided getting sidelined was to leave the party, which neither of them were able to do.
I go to a lot of your events, and I've heard your stump speech, and a lot of today was your stump speech. But you're still focusing a lot on President Biden. He is out of the race. In fact, at one point you even said, you know, highly critical of President Biden, said if President Biden, you know, were to win, if Donald Trump were to win, but he's announced for hours now that he's out. Were you just confused, or have you moved on from it? It was a little, it stood out.
I was making a point about there being very, very little difference between the two parties, and the current iteration of President Biden's policies is Kamala Harris, who has never voiced any differentiation, any distinction between herself and President Biden. Oh, you know, I'm not going to, you know, I just made some criticisms of her own policies, but I don't know what her national policy, there literally is no policy on their website. So we don't know what she stands for. My assumption is, according to her, that she stands for all the things that President Biden stood for.
Bob, does today's news affect your campaign moving forward?
Well, I think everything affects my campaign. I can't tell you how, and I try not to make predictions because I try not to do spin. But I think, you know, as any of you can see, that we're living in a very, very dynamic situation now. It's unprecedented in American history. In fact, the closest thing to this, you know, when I look back on American history, is the 1968 primaries, where my father participated and was killed. And ironically, these, you know, the convention, the Democratic convention this year is being held once again in Chicago. And in 1968, the Democratic Party tried to fix that convention with Mayor Daley basically anointing Hubert Humphrey, who was the DNC's choice, and there was chaos that erupted, and it destroyed the Democratic Party for a decade. So I think we have a lot to learn from that history. As I think Mark Twain said, that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, and it's really rhyming right now.
Mr. Kennedy, you said you are the candidate to beat Donald Trump. You mentioned that multiple times. Yet, I think for the debate in June, you failed to qualify for that. What is it that you see that makes you confident that you can not only beat Donald Trump, but also whoever the candidate would be?
Well, I would point out to you that I qualify for the debate better than any other candidate. Clearly, we all see today that President Biden is not going to be on any ballot. I was on the ballot, and I have enough signatures to be on the ballot today in 29 states. I exceeded the polling thresholds that CNN established. I had 6 polls where I was from their named polling groups, where I was over 15%, and they arbitrarily excluded them. So I believe that I will continue to qualify for the next debate, and hopefully they'll put me on the stage this time.
Let's go. If you don't make the debate the next time, will you take that as a sign?
No, I'm not going to. That would be the opposite of a sign. That would be the networks colluding with the parties to keep me off the stage, which they did the last time. So I'm not going to cave into that just because, your networks are saying are fencing me out, which they are. You will not see me on ABC, CBS, NBC, or CNN doing a live interview. They won't let me on. They're colluding with the Democratic Party to keep me out of the limelight. If you remember when Ross Perot ran, he was on CNN every night. That's why he got so popular. I have greater popularity than Ross Perot without ever getting on the network. Only one time have I been allowed on the network in a live interview, and that's with Aaron Burnett, and they never did it again. And we asked them, Stephanie Spears right here, my press secretary, who's on the phone every day with the bookers from every one of those, and they just say, no, we're not going to let him on. So there's a monolithic wall. The television networks that are owned by the public, those airwaves, are licensed to use them, but those airwaves are owned by the American public. We used to have an equal time rule. We used to have a fairness doctrine that would make those networks put me on. But today we don't. Those laws have been gutted, and they're able to just to make common cause with the Democratic Party to make sure the American public does not see a live interview with me.
Thanks, Bob.
I'll just ask one final question. Touching back to the events of last week, I've noticed you have Secret Service protection now. On a personal level, for you and your family, your thoughts on that, having that now as you move forward?
I'm very grateful for it. Listen, it's intrusive for me, so it's like, be careful what you pray for. But I'm very grateful for it because, when my father was shot, there were 6 bystanders shot that night, including Paul Schrade, who took a bullet to his head, one of my father's best friends. And my uncle, President Kennedy, was shot. Governor Connolly was also shot. When Ronald Reagan was shot, Mr. Brady was also shot. So, in almost all of these attempts at assassination, and when President Trump was shot last week, there was also a bystander who we all pray for who was killed, and 2 others grievously wounded. Oh, it's very important to me to have the Secret Service here, not so much for my own protection, but to protect people, to dissuade people who might want to attack me and who might hurt or even kill a bystander.
Any final comment, Mr. Kennedy?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you all very much for coming out here on a Sunday.
Let's just move over to the corner.
I'll just go in the corner.
President, will you pardon Peter Navarro?
Good man. He was treated very unfairly. He was treated very unfairly. A great patriot, a great negotiator for our country. He did a tremendous job with respect to China and trade, and they treated him very badly. The Biden administration treated him very, very badly. It's a shame, but that's the way it is. They treated him very, very badly.
Will Paul Manafort come back to your campaign, sir?
I don't know anything about it, but he was another person that was treated badly, and he was a patriot. But we'll see what happens with that. We have a lot of people involved in the campaign that have done a tremendous job, and based on the polls, we're doing extremely well. Extremely well.
And Mrs. Trump, are you going to return to the campaign trail with your husband? Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Are you confident that you can take it?
I built a great company, one of the greatest companies anywhere in the country, especially when it comes to real estate. Have some of the greatest assets in the world. And this is a rigged trial. This was a rigged trial by a crooked judge and a crooked attorney general. And we're fighting it out with them. We have a lot of cash and we have a great company, but they want to take it away, or at least take the cash element away. Billions of dollars in value, billions of dollars in properties, but they'd like to take the cash away so I can't use it on the campaign. And this is just a corrupt group of people. It's election interference, and we'll see how the courts rule on it. And I'll be guided. Excuse me. I'll be guided by the courts. I think that the Democrats have been very, very opposed to Jewish people. That's true, and to Israel. All you have to do is look at Senator Schumer. What he did with Israel is a disgrace. And I think Israel will probably not forget it very soon. It's a very sad situation.
Do you think a 16-week abortion ban is smart? Do you think
Say it what? Oh, I couldn't care less. We need patriots. We need strong people in our country. Our country's going downhill very fast, very rapidly. Millions of people coming across the border, coming from jails, from prisons, coming from mental institutions and insane asylums, terrorists. We need strong people in this country. We don't need weak people.
Do you think a 16-week abortion ban is smart?
We'll be talking about that soon.
How soon?
We'll be talking about it very soon.
Are you a Jewish voter, Mr. President?
Well, we're doing very well with the Jewish voter, it looks like, and we should do very well. If you look at all of our presidents, they're saying Trump was the best for Israel, by far the best for Israel. And we're doing very well with the Jewish vote, as you can see in the polls.
Do you think the Biden administration should continue?
They have to close the borders. Our country is dying. Our country is being overridden. This is an invasion. Our country is being invaded by people nobody even knows who they are, where they come from. Millions of people. I predict 15 million people within a short period of time. Probably have 15 million people already. That's bigger than most states. And these people come from the wrong places. They're coming from very bad places. There's no checks. There's no balances. It's a disgrace. What's happening to our country is a disgrace. We have to close the border. Let people come in, but they have to come in legally.
Mr. President, how will you conduct a mass deportation?
Say it.
How will you conduct a mass deportation?
That'll be very evident. It'll go very quickly. I will tell you that. It'll go to deportation. We're going to get the criminals out of our country right away. Our country is being invaded, and many of these people are criminals. They're criminals. How can anybody do this? There's never been a president that's done such harm to a country as this president has done to our country. He's the worst president we've ever had, and I'm looking forward to November 5th. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I voted for Donald Trump. Yeah. Did somebody just say, who'd you vote for? Yeah, I voted for Donald Trump. Thank you.
Thank you, Trump. We love you.
We've got another tragic story connected to the border crisis. Travis Wolf was just one day away from celebrating his 12th birthday when a woman who was in the United States illegally from Venezuela crashed head-on into his family's Jeep.
Church teacher accused of abusing several children in Montgomery County, Maryland. Tonight, immigration officials tell us he was never supposed to be in the United States in the first place, and he had already been deported twice.
Palm Beach County deputies arrested 3 undocumented immigrants in Lake Worth Beach on sexual battery charges. According to the arrest affidavit, the 3 suspects, all from Guatemala, abducted a local woman along the street and threw her inside a truck. Authorities say the men drove off and stopped at a nearby intersection where they sexually assaulted her and filmed it.
The leader of a Colombian street gang, Los Antanas, has been arrested in Texas, where he was seeking asylum. Colombian authorities confirmed that he was one of the 7 most wanted murderers in Colombia's capital.
A woman accused in Mexico of several murders and body dismemberments, even removing victims' hearts, is arrested in El Paso. The FBI says Pineda was known for extreme brutality, dismembering bodies, removing hearts, and placing the hearts in front of Santa Muerte statues.
Well, you're bringing up family, so let's talk about that elephant in the room, because your family has not endorsed your presidential candidacy. In fact, they've said in part, your siblings, Rory, Carrie, Kathleen, Joseph, put out a statement on X that said in part, the decision of our brother Bobby to run as a third-party candidate against Joe Biden is dangerous to our country. Bobby might share the same name as our father, but he does not share the same values, vision, or judgment. Today's announcement is deeply saddening for us. We denounce his candidacy and believe it is perilous for our country. And then others went on to say, we cannot do anything that in any way strips even one vote from President Biden. You put the Kennedy name on the ballot, and Democrats are going to feel torn. They also said they love you personally as an individual, but not your candidacy. How did you feel when you read all? Did you know that was coming?
Yeah, I knew it was coming. And, you know, I have a big family, Dr. Phil. I think there's something like 105 cousins, and a lot of them are supporting me. Several of them are working prominently in my campaign. My cousin Anthony Shriver, who is helping run my campaign in Florida, and he has a daughter who until recently was in the senior staff level of my campaign. But, you know, my family, listen, we were raised to differ with each other on issues. My father orchestrated debates between us every night at the dinner table, and they differ with me on a lot of issues. They differed with me on COVID, on the lockdowns, for example. They differ with me on the Ukraine war. And my family has a very close relationship with President Biden. So President Biden has a bust of my father behind him at the Oval Office. I've known President Biden for 40 years. It's not just a political friendship with my family. It's a personal friendship. They actually like him a lot, and they're very loyal to him. And 5 of them, including some of the ones that you mentioned, actually work for or with the administration. So I understand their distress, but I love my family. I feel loved by my family, and you know, I feel like I can argue with them in a way that is congenial, that is spirited, but at the same time, I'm able to love them. I wish that for the rest of the country too. I wish that we could have civil debate again without hating each other.
I wonder if people think, I don't know Robert Kennedy Jr., but the people who do know him are saying really biting and critical things about him. They know him better than I do, so who am I to second guess them? They know him better. Was that their intent? Did they really intend to torpedo your campaign? Because as an outsider looking in, from a psychological standpoint, I think people would say, I'm going to substitute their judgment for mine because they know him better than I do. How do you keep people from substituting this judgment for their own?
There's an entire national press out there that is very opposed to me. What I would say to people is just listen to what I'm saying rather than other people's characterizations of me. And that's the most I can do. I know that what I'm doing right now is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I feel comfortable in my soul with that decision. And I'm working as hard as I can to make sure that to save this country. But ultimately, it's in God's hands. I have to work as hard as I can. And the slings and arrows that I take from people outside are, need to be irrelevant to me.
Personally, I don't think he makes it to the starting gate. I hate when they compare him to me. He's old, he's broken, he's incompetent. But let's also talk about Trump. I stand up here, I make these speeches all the time. We have the biggest crowds in history. If I didn't have it, you'd know before anybody. Front Row Joes would know. Our great people from North Carolina. Over here, we have like 35 women. They follow me, North Carolina. They follow me all over the country. They're beautiful. They're great. I don't know what the hell their husbands are saying. This is, I think, their 117th stop. But Front Row Joes, you may even top it, right? These are serious. How many stops? Yeah, in the 90s. All right, they beat you. The women from North Carolina won. That's all right. But there's never been anything like this. Look, we do these rallies. They're incredible. This isn't really a rally. This was a stop, and we have thousands of people outside that can't even get in. It's amazing. And, yesterday she had a rally. 9 people showed up. 9 people. She's finished. In fact, our lead against Biden is now 6 points, 7 points, 9 points, 11 points, and even one at 15 points. And the betting markets all over the world, the betting markets have us beating Biden by 21 points. We have to do that. And by the way, she's getting clobbered. She's getting clobbered by the Democrats, even though she probably is one. I think she probably is. They're putting up her money. They have the biggest Democrat supporters giving her money because Republicans aren't. They think it's a hopeless case. But don't let that fool you. They cheat like hell. So everyone has to go and keep your eyes wide open for the cheaters and vote, vote, vote. You got to do that. And the primary just coming up. I know you think we're going to win by a lot, and I think we are by probably a record. We've broken every record so far. We've broken Iowa, New Hampshire. We broke every one of them. Every record, every place we've run. Nevada, we broke. The Virgin Islands, we got 100% of the vote. We broke it every record, and I think we're going to break the record here. But it doesn't matter. You have to go vote because we have to show in November the kind of a movement that we have. There's never been a movement like this in the history of our country. This is MAGA. This is MAGA country. This is MAGA country. And when Biden gets up and he barely can read, he can barely stand. Remember he used to say, I'd like to take him to the back of the barn. And everyone thought it was so cute. When I said I'd love to go back there with that guy, it'd take about 2 seconds. I'd go like this. He'd go down so fast, but when I said it, they said the fake news, but look at all that fake news. When I said it, they said, he's a fascist, he's a fascist. When he said, oh, isn't that nice? When I said it, they said he's a fascist. No, I'm not a fascist. They also said years ago, remember Hillary Clinton? I don't call her crooked anymore. I use that term for Joe. We don't need to. We don't care about her so much. To me, she's beautiful, Hillary. She's a very beautiful woman. But when I was talking and speaking and all the things that we do so beautifully, so not, it's very interesting. I've never had an empty seat, right? This place is packed, they're all packed. I never get credit for being a great speaker. I don't know if I'm a great speaker or not. Who the hell knows? I never get credit. What? I never get credit. I don't know. Henry thinks I'm a very good speaker. But you know, no, every rally, like this one, turns out they're all rallies, because if we have 1,000 people, 10,000 people show up, they're all rallies. But they come by the thousands. We never have empty seats. We never have anything empty. We usually have to put screens like this outside so people can see. We did it in Nevada. We did it in New Hampshire. We were going to do it in Iowa, but it was 40 degrees below zero in Iowa. And by the way, the electric cars were not working too well. They don't work well in cold weather, and that was seriously cold. I had to walk from here to like the stairway that Joe Biden can't find. See the stairway over there? Can never find. Where's the stair? He always moves. And they're going to show it. Every time I show it, I get in trouble. You know why? Because these fake news people, who are among the most corrupt people in the world, it's true. They say, look, Donald Trump could not find his way off the podium. So I imitate Biden, and in one case there was a wall, like that. A lot of times we have people back there. Do it. And these are the front row Joes they've seen. But here's the risk. Whenever I do it on the newscast, Donald Trump had a hard time finding his way off a platform. There were 5 different stairways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's real easy. He's the only guy in history that cannot find it. But when I do it, they show it at night. They show me mimicking him. And they say, Donald Trump could not find his way off the platform. These are very dishonest people. When I say Barack Hussein Obama is the president of the United States, meaning there's a lot of control there, because the one guy can't put 2 sentences together. So I say, Barack Hussein Obama. Remember Rush used to go, Barack Hussein Obama. You go, Barack Hussein Obama. But he'd do that. Rush, do we miss Rush? Yes. But when I say that Obama is the president of our country, they go, he doesn't know that's Biden. He doesn't know. So it's very hard to be sarcastic. When I interpose, because I'm not a Nikki fan and I'm not a Pelosi fan, and when I purposely interpose names, they said he didn't know Pelosi from Nikki. From Tricky Nikki. He didn't know. I interposed, and they make a big deal out of it. I said, no, I think they both stink. They have something in common. They both stink. And remember this, when I make a statement like that about Nikki, that means she will never be running for vice president. She will never be running for vice president. Remember that. There are things you can say about people. Do you ever see where, you're really hitting one person, they're hitting you, but it goes to a level. But we're at the level now, I am in particular, bird brain and lots of other things. There are things that when you say that you're never going to have her. So I hope nobody wants her, because I think she's absolutely terrible. She's terrible. So you're never going to have her. And I don't think anybody's very devastated. We do have a lot of great people, by the way.
How many first-time voters came out?
A
that
lot.
election?
A lot.
And that was largely the difference,
Yeah.
too, wasn't it?
That's how come if I run for president, if they let me in the debates, I'd win that too. Bold talk, isn't it?
What's the likelihood you ever try and run?
Who knows? Let's wait till the Libertarian Convention, where the Libertarians announce their candidate and that candidate gets balloted